morning to you all. Arya Nagarjuna has stated that there are 4 types of beings that will migrate from this world into the next world, from a light to light, light to darkness, darkness to light, darkness to darkness. Hopefully we are all to be the first category, the one who will migrate from this world, that which is a light, into another world that is also a light. To have this wonderful life of human beings, and then to have another wonderful human being's life, or life that is even perhaps greater than the human being's life, life in the celestial realms. I think it all depends on how we conduct ourselves, how we manage our 3 doors: the physical door, the speech door, and then for mostly how we manage our mental door, most importantly. Once somebody is already interested and already is turning one's mind towards the spiritual path, the practice of Dharma, naturally, with the physical door, people do not engage much in the negative actions such as killing, stealing, and that sort of things. Because there's already that empathy, there's already that sensitivity, there's already that sense of a spiritual inclination. So I don't doubt that any one of you do things that is physically to hurt others. Even let alone that human beings, even animals or insects. I trust you don't. Now when it comes to speech, it's a little bit more difficult. It's a little bit more gray area how we engage with our speech. Oftentimes we don't intend, but we say hurtful things. Oftentimes we don't intend, but we criticize others. Oftentimes we don't intend, but we allude to others' weaknesses and faults. Oftentimes, to our own surprise, how much we without the intention get involved in the negative speech. That sort of disturbs our own mind. And of course, just by engaging, if it disturbs your mind, it certainly disturbs the other person, for sure, whom you are criticizing or whom you are pointing out their faults or whom you are being offensive. Especially this happens a lot in the close circles, with your close family members, friends, spouse, children. So there is a lot to bring our mindfulness in our speech. Now, to bring a mindfulness in our speech, we have to bring mindfulness in our mind. Without bringing a mindfulness in our mind, what's really taking place in our mind, it's very difficult. For our speech to be very gentle, soothing, pleasant to hear, truthful, appreciative, respectful, where it is due being very honorable. Because our mind is often struggling. So, as speech is grey is a shade that is made of white and dark color. We can reflect where our mind is through our speech. We can reflect to really examine our state of mind. Now everyone is to find one's mind in times peaceful, one's mind in times peaceful and joyful, content. And there is a well-being in one's mind with these attributes. But then other times one's mind is disturbed. One's mind is disturbed in relation. A lot of the times with our relations with others. In our social relations with others. Then other times our mind is disturbed, not necessarily in relation to others or in our social relations with the others. It is disturbed because we have a lot of generally speaking, fears. We have a lot of attachments. We have maybe perhaps fear and attachments that we are some of them quite aware, and some of them we are not even quite aware. And we don't want to necessarily be quite aware. We are keeping them far away or keeping them in bay. Then other times we feel we are quite anxious. And then we are agitated. And then times we feel, for no reasons, angry. Or almost have aggression inside of us with not particularly any object. See, however we are practitioners, we have turned our mind towards the Dharma and we have taken refuge and we have entered into the Mahayana path. Still, when it comes to relating with our own mind in a deeper level, to transform our mind, what is the true point and true meaning and true purpose of being a spiritual person, taking refuge, coming onto the path, somehow we have in there got too busy doing other things, not doing what we must do for most importantly to really relate with our internal states of mind. Now here, Pangyu, mindfulness is very important. Just becoming a spiritual person, outwardly, just taking refuge, just entering into supposedly on the path of Dharma, mindfulness doesn't happen on its own. Mindfulness has to be cultivated. Mindfulness has to be cultivated with deep interest of yours. Especially mindfulness of mind has to be cultivated with a deep interest of yours. Our mindfulness alone is not going to also make us feel relief from the disturbance or the suffering that it causes. These are not necessarily a big, huge suffering as a losing something very precious like one's parents or children, or some big illness has fallen on you, or some disaster has happened to you, or anything like that. But nonetheless, they are suffering. And they could get accumulated over time. So however, they are not a huge suffering, but what takes place in one's mind is still making oneself suffer. So one is not going to be, just with the mindfulness alone, be relieved from that. Sometimes the mindfulness in this way can actually make it worse. Because before you're not so aware of your mind, so things can sort of happen in your mind and you are oblivious to that. You have a little more thicker skin. But then when you become mindful, and when you become self-aware, and when you cultivate mindfulness and self-awareness of what's really taking place inside of one's mind, then you see, and by seeing, sometimes you could get very more seemingly alarmed or disturbed. The tendency can become a little bit more out of control. So mindfulness is our doorway into having a view, a good view, good look at as what's happening inside of one's mind. Now with the mindfulness, I really encourage, and particularly with the Western audience, I really encourage to not get hard on yourself. There is a tremendous habit and tendency in the Western students to get very hard on themselves when they see disturbing states of mind or emotions. The sense of guilt, the sense of being bad, that it can come up. And that can sort of become a big distraction. Big unhelpful distraction to be on the path. There has to be some acceptance. There has to be some acceptance, no matter whatever state you are engaged in. No matter whatever emotions you are feeling, there has to be some acceptance, otherwise you will be rejecting prior to sort of coming to know where is this state of mind, where is this emotion is coming from, what is the conditions for this states of mind, this states of emotions to arise in the first place, that one will not be able to examine or get a close look at. We are all sentient beings. We all have many, countless of lifetimes, habits of being in the confused, ignorant state of mind. So, to have some acceptance of that as a normal and not to reject them right away, but not to also feel like somehow this states of mind and this states of emotions is also truly you yourself. Because when you identify yourself with these states of minds or emotions, because we view our own self as a solid, these states of mind and these states of emotions can also start to take a shape and form of being quite solid. Solid meaning, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is my state of mind. There's nothing could be done. Kind of an attitude can be born. And that's not also helpful. So in these two sides, first side is not just immediately within some kind of a puritanical mindset or attitude to reject, because it's hard to relate. Or in the other side, to identify with the states of mind or the emotions too much as yourself, and make it to be a solid. Somewhere in middle way, one must apply the mindfulness. And of course, certain amount of that disturbance to become aware and its pain and suffering that one feels, to be also aware is a very helpful. Otherwise, how are you going to have a renunciation? How one is going to have the inspiration to work with one's mind? Suffering in that way is a helpful. Buddha have spoken of monk. This is the truth of suffering. Monk thus realize the truth of suffering. So I feel that is necessity in all of us for the deep inspiration to be born to overcome one's own internal conflicts and sufferings, to experience some of that disturbance and its suffering. Now with this then, most importantly, above mindfulness, one must know what to do with one's mind. How to apply the wisdom and the skillful means that is taught in the books, that is taught by the teachers, that is taught by the Buddha himself. How to apply them to one's mind. How to integrate the teachings that one has heard, that one has read, to apply to one's mind and integrate that with one's mind. Without the integration, when you read it, it sounds all wonderful. When you hear it, it sounds all wonderful. It makes to a certain amount of a sense that makes you feel uplifted. But then when you go to apply, you're confused. When you go to apply, you're lost as way to begin. What to do? And then most probably one will be falling asleep. There's nothing to focus on, nothing to concentrate, nothing to get deeper and deeper into overcoming one's own negative aspect of mind and transforming it into positive with one's effort. So there has to be a very specific manual label. It doesn't happen by itself. If you are jealous, for example, you will have to understand how you are jealous first, and how the jealous see burns you inside and cause you all sorts of mental disturbance, pain and suffering. And then, why you are jealous? In what ways you are jealous? To also examine and to see, to come to know, and then to be able to really articulate to yourself without shame. Because your mind is aware to your own self. Ranglo rangla kotuma jurwa, which means your mind is self-aware to yourself. So bringing a more self-awareness, a more clarity in what ways you are jealous, in what manner you are jealous, how you are jealous. Spending little time in that way to kind of be specific about your state of mind and emotions. What is there to be so shameful? If somehow one is ashamed or one's shame comes in, one will shut off that emotion. But that emotion will continue. It's not like you could shut it off and it'll be shut off for good. One's awareness becomes shut off. A further sort of deeper level of awareness becomes shut off. So one should not do that. One should come to know, come to see, be able to articulate. Like a writer, for example, writes, articulates. Maybe writer hasn't a sort of audience. But here, maybe you don't have an audience. You are the writer and you are the audience. And in this way, you must become clear. In this process, you can become clear. And becoming more clear in this process in itself is a very powerful to dissolve the confusions around it. Whatever the confusions that is surrounding it, that is in the emotion, in the state itself, becoming more clear, seeing more clear, being able to articulate to yourself more clear, just as it is, not trying to change anything, not trying to manipulate in any way, not trying to even apply the remedy, just seeing it very clear can be very powerful. Then as you become very clear, then you could adopt the practice of sympathetic joy, being happy on behalf of others. Being happy on behalf of others is hard work. It doesn't come naturally. Even for good people, it doesn't come naturally. One's own ego, one's own ego's competitiveness, one's own ego's various complex emotions. Even for good people, being genuinely happy on behalf of others is hard. You have to remove all of those. What is on the way to being genuinely happy on behalf of others? Katsamayimba, not just as a word, oh, I'm so happy for you, but really, truly being happy for others. It is hard work, and it has to be learned, and it has to be learned on basis on overcoming the jealousy, the pain of jealousy, pain of competitiveness, pain of disturbing emotions that is related to jealousy and competitiveness. Jealousy can occur within a spouse. If one spouse is doing better than other spouse can get jealous. It can happen between siblings. If one sibling is doing better than the others, it can of course happen in friends. Now that doesn't mean that there's no love between the spouse or in the person who's jealous of the other spouse. or siblings, in friends who is jealous. There is a love. But in one side, however, there is a love, but in the other side, there's other emotions as well. Other emotions as in emotions of being competitive. So, jealousy, envy can come. So, when we learn how to be happy on behalf of others, we cannot just, if there's a love between two individuals, if there's a care between two individuals, that this love and this care should exempt other emotions like a competitiveness or jealousy or envy. It doesn't work that way. So, a person who really has a love and care, when one finds one has some jealousy and envy and this disturbing emotions, this disturbing state is found within in this relation, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. To become self-aware of this, to see this clear as possible, how it manifests in your mind, and see it manifest. If it manifests out of some strong edge of competitiveness or strong edge of some kind of insecurity of your own self, as feeling like you are being left behind, or you deserve the success or the recognition, but it goes somewhere else. Whatever the sort of strain of thoughts or emotions of the jealousy is being generated, becoming self-aware of those. And then, no, these are all related to your overwhelming attachment to the self. Yes, jealousy is the problem. Jealousy is the challenge here. But the root cause of the jealousy is your own overwhelming attachment to the self. We are not talking about not having any attachment to the self in a basic level. We are talking about overwhelming attachment to the self. So in order to overcome this overwhelming attachment to the self, it's not like a cloth. You could wash it off with the dirt. If there is a dirt with the soap, that's very simple. When it comes to mind, when it comes to mental state, it requires your own wisdom and skillful means to wash it off till it's clean, and again wash it off when the dirt collects with your wisdom and skillful means. Over and over, over and over. So what is the wisdom here? When you recognize, when you realize that you have too much overwhelming attachment to the self, is to really transfer that affection to the self to others. That's the only way that this will come to be in balance. Otherwise, there is no way for this ever can come to in balance. You'll have to see that dark ginseng, the self-cherishing, self-attachment, can be only reduced by one thing alone, that is a yen ginseng, cherishing of others. Increasing one's affection for others. One's care and love for others. Now here, there's a dual benefits. The dual benefit is that as the affection for others or love for others or care for others is increased, and sympathetic joy, for example, is practiced. Of being happy for others is a practice. In the beginning, it's maybe perhaps it's a little bit, almost feels fake, unnatural. But as in various ways, you try to really generate that emotion of being happy on behalf of others, are real and genuine. For example, if something like that happens to you, what has happened that caused you jealous? How would you be happy? Imagining that. And imagining that experience of happiness, how would you be in that position, one would feel? Helps to increase the truly, genuinely being happy for others. Because you have a taste of what that would be, what the other's experience would be. Otherwise it's just, you're jealous about something, but you are not quite knowing the essence of what that experience is. So what you are to be happy about, also you are confused. But if you truly know what that experience would be, and how hard, for example, the person has been working for that achievement. If you think about that, take a time to think about how much a person has been working to achieve that achievement. All the effort that has gone into it, all the hopes and fears that were involved in that, all the struggle that was involved that, and then finally having achieved what one has achieved. And how that is a fruit of all this effort and all the struggle. Then again you could feel much more easier to be happy on behalf of others. So in this way, creatively, you have to work with your mind to become more genuinely able to be happy on behalf of others. It's not like you could just squeeze out of your heart a huge amount of emotions of sympathetic joy right away. And then also, for example, thinking how rare for someone to be happy. And when somebody is truly happy, how wonderful that is, regardless of whether it's you or whether it's someone else. Thinking in this way, again, if you are really try to be happy on behalf of others, you could get stronger experience of sympathetic joy on behalf of others. So in this way, then you could see the jealousy is melted away. Sympathetic joy is filled up in your heart. And the ground of the sympathetic joy is really zhenjinzing. Zhenjinzing means cherishing others. Transferring that affection of love and care that one has for oneself excessively to others, a portion of it, if not all, portion of it. In the case of jealousy, it's a portion of that love and care that you have for yourself. You are transferring it to others. Hence, then, this has also decreased. Hence, the balance has come. Hence, then, you're not disturbed. You're not disturbed, you're not confused. Confusion is pain in itself. Not knowing is a great pain. It's a dull pain, but it's a great pain. It's not a sharp pain, but it's a great pain. A blind man finding oneself in the intersection can sense the danger of all the cars running very fast in all directions and know that one needs to respond to the danger and do something but don't know what to do. Imagine how that will feel. Pain of the confusion is similar to that. It's easier to articulate, it's easier to speak of the pain of other emotions, but the pain of confusions is the harder one to speak and articulate. But then, again, confusion is the root of all other emotions. And it is a pain in itself as well. So, one doesn't have that. Neither the jealousy, nor the confusions around, nor the deep kind of, when we have a jealousy, for example, we have the pain of the jealousy itself as an one, sharper pain. Then we have the pain of the confusions around it as another pain. Then we have the pain of ego clinging in the deeper level as another pain. 3 layers of pain. Absence of that is nirvana, peace. Absence of that is transformation of mind. Absence of that, we are not talking about for good, but for the moment. For the time being, is time being nirvana. For the moment, nirvana. For the moment, transformed state. This is really what we are calling intelligence of emotions, intelligence of heart. Somebody can be very good in IQ. Many people are very good in IQ. Can be very good in giving one of those tests to score high marks. But clueless in this kind of, total clueless in this kind of, knowledge of how to relate with one's mind. Doctors, professors, PhDs, in mathematics, philosophy, and other subjects such as science. We see suffer from this kind of emotions, and the signs of suffering is very evident in their face, in their life, in their being. this kind of, I think, lacking not IQ, but EQ, emotional intelligence. Intelligence of the heart, development of the heart. Is why humanity is suffering large and large. So, there is this kind of a benefit of being able to reach out to others and make the relationship with others quite peaceful and sweet and warm-hearted. For example, no matter how close you are related with the biological bond as being brothers or sisters, or being spouse as a husband and wife, or friends. When you know that somebody is potentially be jealous of you, potentially feel envious of you, will somehow be not happy on behalf of you, but actually cause some kind of disturbance of jealousy and envy, and from jealousy and envy, some remarks or some other words that will actually make you disturbed. Usually, when you have something good thing happen to you, something great thing happen to you, something that you feel quite happy and you feel very much in the state of joy, you want to share that with close ones. You want to share that with others. That's a very natural human tendency, very natural human inclinations. But with whom perhaps might get jealous with you, whom perhaps might become envious of you, who perhaps might get, instead of being happy on behalf of you, but will feel this kind of disturbing emotions, and out of the disturbing emotions might make remarks, might say other words that might actually make you upset. You would tend to hide it, your achievements. You would tend to hide your own happiness. You would tend to sort of not express your own joy and share with the others. And this happens. This can happen within a spouse relation. This can happen within in the brothers and sisters relations. This can happen within in the friends relations. But now, if you know somebody is not going to be jealous, somebody is not going to be envious, somebody will truly sort of be happy on behalf of you and will really rejoice. You would want to share it. You feel comfortable to share it. You feel very open to share it. You feel quite in solidarity with the person to share happiness as well as maybe perhaps pain and suffering. So, the effects of sympathetic joy. Buddha has spoken. This is the effects of the sympathetic joy that makes everyone your friends, everyone close to you, everyone to feel safe and comfortable and trusting of you. Everyone to be able to relate to you in this ways. And then also, you get yourself that satisfaction. Out of all the happiness, there are many kinds of happiness in our mind. Variegated happiness that is in our mind, happiness of being happy on behalf of others is the greatest one, as the Buddha has spoken. Because it certainly comes from strength of your mind, not obtaining something from outside and a hard labor and with so much hopes and fears and so much of attachments. It genuinely comes from simple good heart and the strength of that simple good heart. And it's unexhaustible because there's always going to be something to be happy on behalf of others. So Buddha have spoken that it is the greatest among all the happinesses that mind can produce. It's the one of the greatest happiness of all. And by rejoicing, by dedicating that very merit, if it is a merit-oriented achievement, you could obtain the whole of that merit equally as the person who has conducted the action. So in this way, there is a double benefits. This we must learn. This we must learn. And this we must learn as the first most important thing. To increase the joy and happiness in one's mind. And learning this, it decreases one's own pain and suffering of ego attachments, as well as also it decreases of the confusions around the jealousy and the pain of the jealousy and the competitive mindset. Otherwise, it can really ruin us. When the Buddha himself was on this earth, walking, two persons who Buddha cannot actually help. And who are the two persons? His two cousins. Why? Because of the jealousy. He was able to help all other people with a tremendous arrogance. He was able to communicate and overcome their arrogance. One who is very attached, he was able to communicate the Dharma and overcome the attachment. One who is also incredibly dull, he was able to communicate the Dharma and overcome. And one who's also very angry, he was able to communicate the Dharma and overcome. There are examples of many of his disciples with those emotions as a primary strong emotions. And then by meeting Buddha and by being able to hear the Buddha's teachings, they were able to self-reflect and overcome their emotions. But the two who was not able to help by the Buddha and overcome their emotions is two of his cousins who were caught so much in the state of a jealousy. Devdatta, Shona Shastra are the two. Till the end, Buddha cannot do anything. So, once we work with our jealousy in this way and able to overcome, then we can maybe overcome with our other emotions, anger, attachments, pride. But all in all, it is really, as we will be reading today, this morning, will come down to 2 points. In the Lojong teachings, it speaks of overcoming one's own excessive attachment to the self, and increasing love for others. In order to overcome the excessive attachment to the self, we have to self-analyze in a very objective way, not an emotional way, to see the downfalls of this self-attachment, how it causes suffering, how it disturbs our mind, and how it ruins our peace in life. How generating love for others, how it enhances our state of happiness and joy, and how it enhances our peace, how it enhances our relation with the others, how it makes our life harmonious with the others and with the environment we live in. As a great Kadampa Geshe Ben has said, other than observing one's state of mind, in which way it is engaged, and trying to transform this continuously so throughout the day, or most importantly on the cushion, he has no any other path. When we speak about in Buddhism, critical intelligence. What is critical intelligence? Churap namje ki sherap in Tibetan. Churap namje ki sherap means discerning. Discerning in what sense? Discerning what cause, what conditions results into pain and suffering. Making that link very clearly. Understanding the link between the cause and conditions to that result. Similarly, what cause and what conditions results into state of happiness and state of joy. Making that link very clearly. Making that link very clearly and understanding the process very clearly. That is critical intelligence. That is discernment intelligence. Why is it a discernment intelligence? Why it is a critical intelligence when we know how to do that so? Because we, as a whole of the race of the sentient beings, not just as a humanity, but whole race as an sentient beings, wishes to be happy. There's no one single sentient being doesn't wish to be happy. Longs to be free from suffering. That is the innermost intention of sentient beings, that they are actually working all the time to achieve. However, that is the intention. The actions are not in support of that intention. Actions are employed as if against the intention. Hence, the suffering is abundance in life of sentient beings. When we know how to discern in that way, and when we know how to apply our own critical intelligence in that way, we are able to support the innermost intention of ourselves and rest of the sentient beings with the actions. Actions and intention then comes in total enlightenment. So this has a very personal and as well as also in the case of the humanity, a significant. In the personal, one will then go from light to light, as I have been speaking of. From a lifetime to lifetime. One will never fall down. Never will fall down in life and lifetime to lifetime. There has to be no fear whatsoever. In this sense, really, there's no, as many great beings have said, there's no any religiosity, how do you say? There's no any kind of Buddhism or the path of the Buddhism being religious. It is actually directly linked with one's experience of cause and effect, and how the cause and effect responds to progress of humanity, progress of individual's life, to uplift itself to the maximum level of possibilities that is in the nature. So in this way, this critical intelligence or churab namje ki shirab, discernment, highest of the highest discernment of intelligence, is, first of course you have to hear it. When you hear it, you just being intelligent. Intelligent human being. Intelligent human being meaning na shi tenko. Na shi tenko means can speak human language. Tenko means understand what is being spoken. So, ability to speak human language and understand what is being spoken makes us human beings. Now, if you are to speak human language to an animal, first of all, they would not understand. Second, they would not able to speak human language themselves. Second, they would not understand. So human beings with a language skill, an ability to understand what is spoken, we are equipped with the condition of hearing wisdom. Now, in this understanding of what's being spoken, there's no conviction. There is a sense of resonating it to be true. But there's no conviction. Conviction comes when you are able to sit on the cushion or quietly and then reflect upon what's being spoken. Or read and then close up the book and then reflect upon what you have read it independently in your mind and make the sense clearly, reasons being understood clearly by yourself. And that's what brings the conviction. That's called contemplative wisdom. Much of the Buddhist meditation is really a contemplative meditation. Then when you go to put that wisdom and those skillful means to transform your mind and transform your experience and able to, in whatever degree you are successful to integrate the teachings with your experience, that is a meditative wisdom. So, this critical intelligence in the hearing wisdom can increase into the contemplative wisdom, and the contemplative wisdom can increase into the meditative wisdom. And with these three wisdoms, one is to be able to transform one's mind. Now for that, wisdom is the most important in the Buddhist teachings, in the Buddhist path. Even to have a faith, faith has to rely upon the wisdom. The faith has to be byproduct of the wisdom. So wisdom is the most important. And the second to the wisdom, concentration. In order to generate this kind of a wisdom, you need a quiet place. You need a time set aside you need a way to sort of enter into your own practice of increasing of the three wisdoms. So, concentration or samadhi is in support of the wisdom. Now, again, in the support of the wisdom, even if you have concentration, by large and large, if the person is not a wholesome person, by large and large, the person is engaged in wrongdoings, engaged in negative actions, it is not going to be for a person to have much of a concentration and much of a wisdom anyway. But even if one tries to have a concentration and the wisdom, it would actually not, since person is addicted basically in the unwholesome actions and doesn't want to reform, the concentration and the wisdom is not going to be on its own to sort of do anything. So, therefore, the person by large and large has to be wholesome. Wholesome meaning engage in a practice of restraining wrongdoings. Takes a delight in restraining. Not to see this as some kind of rules, or this is some kind of an obligation, or this is some kind of sense of, imposition from outside. Person has to have a delight. Delight is the key to observe vows and precepts. Without the delight in observing the vows and precepts can become struggle. When person is in delight to restrain from wrongdoings, that makes the person wholesome. In one side. And in another side, the person also has to be in delight to engage in the actions that are of the wholesome actions. And by engaging in the wholesome actions, in delight, the person becomes wholesome. Not only from restraining, but by engaging as well. Then, underlying motivation has to be for the benefit of others. One is to be wholesome not for some egocentric reasons, but with the altruism, especially in the Mahayana precepts and the vows. There has to be an altruistic motivation, altruistic agenda, altruistic intention to do everything, and particularly to observe the vows and precepts, and to be engaged in a proper conduct. And altruism here meaning for the benefit of other, for the benefit of the humanity, for the benefit of all sentient beings. One is to engage in this spiritual path. So in this way, wisdom leading, meditation supporting the wisdom, and the moral grounds being the fundamental ground where one stands. These three things are indispensable in the path of enlightenment. Wisdom, samadhi, shila. But of the three, which one is going to be the most important? It is going to be the wisdom. So engaging in this way, the outcome is from a light to light. In how many ever lifetimes we are to take from this point on till enlightenment, light to light, living and living joyfully, living and living joyfully for the benefit of others, for the benefit of mankind, for the benefit of sentient beings as in one race. And you all are blessed with a connection to the Buddha Dharma. You all, by taking up the path of the Buddha Dharma to become enlightened, but to become enlightened, this sort of transformations, this sort of wisdom, this sort of meditation, this sort of moral disciplines is going to be the integral part of the enlightened path. I have no doubt you have been a Buddhist on the path. And this could be continuation. Out of 7 billion or almost 8 billion people on the earth, to find this connection is not a random. To find oneself in this condition is not a random. It is due to one's previous connection and relation to the three jewels, being on the path. Now we must make of it best. For ourselves and for the benefit of others. The work that is cut out for the benefit of ourselves and for the benefit of others is simple in a way. To be a genuine practitioner, it's not about being some unnatural thing to do. Actually, to be a Buddhist and to be a practitioner is taking a lot of burden off of your shoulder. A lot of the load of the heavy load of the one's own, normally what one would have the ego ambitions and ego hopes and ego fears and ego so much of the agendas off from our shoulders should make oneself much lighter. Recognizing that these are all really for the vanity of ego. To be humble, to be genuine, to stay true to yourself and true to your experience, true to the intention of learning, true to the intention of understanding the wisdom. If there is something that we must cherish, it is the wisdom that we must cherish. And how do we actually come to truly appreciate the wisdom is by staying humble, by staying with much of humility, by staying much true to oneself, true to one's experience, and true to the quest of learning the wisdom. And applying them on the cushion. If you are more serious and have the conditions to be in a retreat, but if not, that's also okay. In one's own home, training one's own room, a private sanctuary to sit and meditate and deeply reflect upon the wisdom. From this angle, if we can truly be true to the Buddha's teachings, we can actually be so unburdened by all of the rest of the humanity is so much burdened with. So I think it's very simple in that sense. So, we have gone over our time, so maybe we will do the reading this afternoon. Thank you all very much. Sunam de tam je sikpahani tam nam nyebe danam Dzigar nanche balap tukpa sebe zole dowa shu njambala bawe chedara chemba dang kundu deyan teken ten te da kunchi jisu gewa de da dam je razo ngu chanchu semchu Rinpoche ma je panam je ba nyamba me ba dang kondu bewa shu. Maybe sit for 5 minutes.